Welcome everyone to Young Explorers. We're going to be doing an interview today. We're going to be talking with Sharon, who's here. Thank you for joining us, Sharon.
Hi.
So just the purpose is to get to know you a little better. So first off, how has your lockdown been?
Well, it's been very interesting. I think it's been unexpected, like everyone else. And at first, I think initially it was quite difficult. I think, not seeing anyone, I think, and not seeing your family and your loved ones and your church family and your friends. But at times, I think I've quite enjoyed. There's been moments where I've had more time for myself, more time to think, more time to write, more time to kind of be silent and think about things. Lots of time to think, actually. So while there have been lots of negatives, there have been some positives. So it's not all bad.
Yeah, I think everyone's had challenges and difficulties in this time. But there've also been things that we've learned about ourselves and about other people as positives, as you say. One thing I wanted to ask is, how did you become a Christian? Can you tell us a bit about your testimony?
Well, it all seems a long time ago now. So when I was brought up in a Christian family. My parents were Christians. We always went to church. We always went to Sunday school. So Christianity was part of my life. It was all I knew. And that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. So I was brought up reading the Bible and understanding the basics and going to Sunday school and youth group. But when I made it my own was when I was 15 years old. I was going to Sunday school, and I might have asked the Lord into my life then, but I started going to youth camp for girls, Christian camp. And in 1972, I remember the date, seems a long time ago, thought I'd throw it out there. When I was about 15 or 16, I actually gave my life to Christ, and felt really then that I wanted to make a statement about my faith. And they talked a lot about not nailing your colours to the mast, not just being a Christian, but it's as if you belong to a team. And Nathan likes his football analogies. So when you belong to the team, you buy the shirt, you buy the scarf, you wear the hat. And I think I really understood then about actually stepping out in my faith life and actually saying to others that I am a Christian. And I think that helped me to grow as a Christian, because by actually saying it out loud and stating it as an intention, it made me want to live it more. So, and that's when I started in my journey. But I'm still growing, I'm still developing, I'm still learning after all these years.
So when you said you stepped out in that faith journey, how did that impact you sort of in the 6 months, the year or 2 years after? Was there a big change for you, or was change something that happened gradually?
For me, the changes was more about, it didn't change the way I lived, because we were brought up in a Christian home. So nothing changed about, for some people, being a Christian, if you're brought up in a home where there are no Christian values, it's significant. But it wasn't significant in that way. What was significant, I think, for me was about me wanting to share my faith. And even though I was quite not as outgoing as I am now and nervous about it, I felt that I needed to tell people that I was a Christian. And one of the things that helped me to tell them was when I became baptized. I think, actually going forward and taking the baptism step, which was a public declaration, inviting your friends, inviting people to say, yes, I'm doing this because I want to show that I am Christian, really helped me in my journey, because it helped me to be a little bit more confident. It didn't mean that I didn't struggle along the way to share my faith with others and to be more confident and being assured of my faith, so much so in the public arena. But it did help by doing the baptism. I think that was a real significant step for me. And that's one I would recommend if you are a young Christian. Then actually the next step, because baptism isn't about being a Christian. Baptism is about telling others that you're a Christian. So it kind of gives that public statement. So yes, I think that was that for me.
As you said, it's a public declaration, but also that's not just, you say, the end. So after that, as you said, you've been a Christian for a number of years. What would you say the challenges have been in terms of being a Christian? Are there challenges that you face specifically, or just ones that happen to everyone, really?
I think the challenges that go along in your faith is challenges that will happen in most people's lives if you live an ordinary life. You know, the challenges that might come along through just day by day stuff, you know, work and having to live your life, having to grow a family when I got married and grown a family. So those challenges, good challenges, but those challenges of, you know, I remember as a young Christian, I really wanted to marry a Christian. But, you know, at the time you pray and you think about it and you're living your life as a young person and you're praying that the Lord will show you the right person to marry, because you feel it's important to marry someone who shares your faith. And I did, fortunately, you know, and that helped. And then as we grew our family together. But I think some of the challenges that come along come from maybe life's crises, you know, bereavement, the challenges of earning money, working, growing up your children, and all of those things. And in all of those things, I think I've proved the Lord in my life along the way. Sometimes it's only looking back, then you realize, because sometimes things happen and you think, oh, I don't understand what's going on. I don't get it. I can't reason it. But then that's when you have to lean into your faith. That's when you have to recognize that we don't know. And there've been lots of times in my life when I've had to recognize that I don't have the answers, and I might never have the answers to some of the things that have come up. But I have to trust the Lord for it, and I have to leave it to Him. And I know it sounds very passive, but actually that surrendering to the Lord helps you to continue in your faith. Because sometimes when the challenges are big, you can say, where's the Lord in my life? I don't get it. I'm going to abandon this. But I think that that's when you have to lean into your faith and accept that the Lord is there, whether we feel it, but we have to know it in our sense. So it's a day-to-day living. Faith, I think the faith journey is not something that it's process rather than product. It's the living, it's the daily living, I would say. And that's when you feel the benefit.
Yeah, as you said, especially in hard times, it's not always easy. But often when you look back and you see what God has done, then you kind of realize and understand the things that happen. So in talking of marriage, you were married Richard. So how long have you guys been married now?
We've been married now for, let me get it right, 33 years. I'm married in 1987. It's a lot of years. Longer than a prison sentence, as some people would say. But 33 happy years. And, you know, and I think the Lord has really blessed us. And we've got 2 wonderful children. And we've brought them up. And they've now, you know, gone through their own they've gone through their education, they've come out the other side, and they're now, you know, on their path. And, you know, and that's important, I think, in that stage of your life, because you think, well, to me, that was I felt that the Lord gave us those children. It was a blessing, and that's something that we had to fulfill for them. And seeing it through has been really positive and a joy, and it's completed, you know, our lives. And so we've been really blessed, and we have so much to thank the Lord for. I can't complain. I won't complain, even though I want to sometimes.
We do want to complain, but He does give us a lot of blessings. So you said as a family that you were brought up in the church. Would that have been Denmark Hall, or would that have been somewhere else?
It was a church quite similar to Denmark Hall, but it was in northwest London where we lived, and a small church, a small hall, similar, Brethren Hall, and we had a really, I felt that it was a really powerful group of people who supported me along the way. I've always had mentors, older folk in the church who have supported and nurtured and mentored me along the way, and given an example. And I do feel now in my path of my life, I feel that that's what I want to do, you know, to mentor and nurture and support as I was supported all the way through, because I think that's really important in your faith journey, because it's not something you can do alone. You really need others. And I think fellowship is such an important thing, you know, getting involved in a church, fellowship. That's why it's been so wonderful with WGCC, even though we've had to be apart, having all these online sessions, of which this is one of those. It's really important because the fellowship is really important. The relationships within the church are really important, because that's what builds you up, strengthens you, and gives you that support on a daily basis, because we all need that, and even more so now than ever. So I think the church has been wonderful in all circumstances, and I'm hoping that what I want for myself is to be someone who's like that in the church, the encourager, supporter.
Someone who is supporting others, helping others. And I think that does
Absolutely.
go to the sort of the biblical worldview, and that you have those who have that experience of being a Christian, are able to communicate and support others who are not as, you could say, mature in their faith. So in terms of support then, because one of the things you do is tea and tots, and you helped to say start that or to restart that. So was that the reason behind that you wanted to start tea and tots, to support others?
Yes, it was. And I think I'm just looking at something I've written, because I think that was really important. Initially, when we started Tea and Tots, it wasn't my vision. I've been in the church, and Tea and Tots had been running for 25 years in a different form, and set up by others in the church, by Fiona and Lois. And so it was something that it was in the church culture. It wasn't something I had been involved with, because unfortunately I'd been at work all those years, and I wasn't able to bring my children to Tea and Tots, to the toddler group then. But when Sarah Jane had the vision to re-establish it in sort of 2019, 2018, when we were talking about it, she had the idea of bringing it back because it benefited her. And I felt, and I prayed about it, and I felt that the Lord was really strongly telling me to support her in bringing back the work, which had really been a tremendous service to the church as a community, but also to other people who'd benefited. So I think that was one of the prime motivations for that.
Yeah, that's good. And it's been, so I've been involved in it a little bit, and it's been good to see. And for me, as someone who was in the sort of original form at one point, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, it's good.
Remember.
No, I don't remember it that well, but it's good to see that work continuing, because we have seen a number sort of come through as children from that into, you could say, the church. So that's one of the things that you've been doing. Also, sort of towards the start of this year, before we went into lockdown, you were on the committee or involved in doing the celebration of 10 years being in the building. So why did you want to get involved in that?
Well, I just really thank the Lord that we did it, and I really saw God's hand in it, because originally when we talked about it sometime in 2018, when we said, let's have a celebration of 10 years, little did we know what 2020 would bring. Well, we didn't know. And we started in 2019 planning it. And interestingly enough, when we planned it for February of 2020, it was just about timing and it was just about organizational things. But looking back, the fact that we were able to have the 10-year testimony, all of the events that we had involving most of the church, the praise events, the event with the Tea and Tots group, the celebration events for the Women's Fellowship, for one another. I think it was tremendous. And I think what was really lovely about it was that we were able to pull all the strands of the church back together to celebrate in different ways and to thank the Lord for what he did for us. And I think it brought us all back to the beginning of the church, the beginning of us at Woodside Green, not the beginning of the church. And I think it was an important time for us to remember. And the banquet, I think, was lovely, celebrating and thinking back to how the Lord has blessed us as a group and as a church, and by putting us in that place and what we've managed to do as a church for the Lord. And I think it was fantastic. And I'm so glad that we did it now. And I think going into lockdown, it was nice to have that just there. It was special. It was thinking, oh, that was such a good thing. And it happened, and it went so well. And the Lord blessed us with it. And I think that's given me this feeling, even in lockdown, that, you know, there's light at the end of the tunnel. We'll come through the other side and it will be good again. So yeah, so it was a very positive. And I think what I've learned, Nathan, of all the things that I've been doing with the church, whichever groups I've worked with, whether it's women's conference, I really enjoy the teamwork,
Yeah,
and working with others in the church, because I feel that that has helped me to get to know people in the church in a really deeper way than you would. Because when you work in a team, you work together, don't you, in a much more natural, and it's much more cohesive, and you get to know someone really well. And so I think that those are the real blessings for me personally. You know, I've been able to grow my relationship with others in the church via doing this work for the Lord.
Working with others, that really does help to get to know people, that fellowship. And then also going back to having that 10-year testimony is a reminder of the blessings God has given us in having that building. And while there are always sort of issues with it, in the way I see it, I can remember back to sort of my childhood talking for so many years, okay, we're going to move, we're going to have this new building, and it always seemed something far off. It didn't really feel like something that was going to happen anytime soon. And then even moving and getting the building done took a little bit longer than expected. And now we're there. We've been there for 10 years. And so it's a reminder that we can have plans. They may not always go the way that we want, but God still brings, I think, blessings out of those. So if you were there part of Denmark Call, when was it that you and Richard joined Denmark Call? Do you remember?
We joined Denmark Call, I think Matthew was about 2 or 3, so 27 years ago, about 27 years. And we started coming there, particularly because our friends lived up the road, and they said, we were looking for another church, and they said, oh, there's a nice church down the bottom of our road, and they're all very friendly. Melissa and Stephen, they're all very friendly and very nice. Why don't you check them out? And that's how we ended up coming to Denmark Road and Denmark Hall, and we've never looked back. And I think it's a real church family. There's such a lovely atmosphere, and people really care, and people are out. There's an energy. It's a small church, but there's a lot of energy, and there's a lot of desire to work for the Lord in different ways. And you know, every church has its flaws, but I think that the unity and the desire to work for the Lord is something that's infectious, and it's something that it's inspired me. And there are lots of people in the church who inspire me all the time by their dedication, by their love for the Lord, by their willingness for service. I think service is really important in growing your faith. Get involved. Just get involved. Just offer to do something, because I think when you do that, you then find a way of expressing your faith and expressing your love for the Lord, and by giving to others and encouraging others, and that feeds you. That feeds your soul, and that makes you feel stronger in your faith as well, because you know that there's purpose. There's purpose in unity. So, we've got so much to give the Lord thanks for. And I think in lockdown, it's expressed itself in the way that we've all managed to somehow be the church online. I think that's a miracle in itself, because I'm not really au fait with all this online technology. So
Well, you're
this
doing
is
well there.
it's helped. That has helped. Lockdown has helped me to become braver
Yeah.
in exploring. I've probably for all of us. I don't know about you, but probably for all of us in exploring this aspect. Because how else are you going to make it work?
Yeah, it encourages you to try new things. So one
Mm.
of the things I wanted to ask you, you mentioned earlier about becoming sort of more confident in your faith, and I think you were talking too about sharing it with other people. Is that
Yes.
something you find easy, or is it something you find difficult, or it depends on the person and situation?
I think as I've become older and I've become more confident in myself, I think, as I'm sure most of people watching this know, I'm a teacher. I was a teacher, probably still am a bit of a teacher. And so initially, I think, even when I started out teaching, I was not as confident, obviously, as I am now. And I think being confident in wanting to share your faith. I think that's something that I've struggled with along the way. It's when I was younger, but I've always proved that once you do it, the benefit of it is so great, and it's about finding ways of doing it, and ways of doing it that's real and true. And I think what I've learned is you've got to do it in the way is best for you. Some people are really good at standing up and preaching in a public place. That's not me. I don't enjoy, that wouldn't be for me. But I think um, living your faith to others, showing kindness, being there for people, offering yourself to others, then people are drawn to you and they want to find out about you. Or some people ask you, they'll ask you about your faith, and I think that's important because that means you're living it. And I feel what I've learned is the life of faith is not just going to church. It's about the way you are with others. It's about your relationships. It's about how you're giving of your, not just of your money, but of your time, of yourself. Are you a good listener? Do people want to talk to you? What's your life based on? What's your advice based on? It's all of those things. And I'm growing and I'm learning. I feel now that I've retired from work. One of the things I wanted to do, I really asked the Lord that I could be more involved in the church, in the work of the church, because when I was teaching, it was such a consuming job, as I'm sure you're aware, Nathan, that it eats up all of you. So now that I've been retired for 3 years, I've really been able to give much more of my time to the work of the church in all different aspects, whether it's working with the kids or doing holiday club or doing the women's conferences or just speaking at women's meetings or just doing the stuff that I wanted to do, but I couldn't do. And one of the things I've learned in life is that that's life. It's a series of processes and journeys. And if you're going along in your life, the Lord will bless you in different areas of your life. So I've really feeling the Lord's blessing at this point in my life because I'm able to give more time to the work of the church, which I think is important.
Yeah, it's having that time to do things is important. So you've already, I think, given us a lot of good advice or pointers. But if there's one bit of advice or encouragement that you would give to the young explorers, what would it be?
I think for the young explorers, this particular time with coronavirus is a very unique and difficult time for everyone. And I think as young people, I recognize that they probably, a lot of them are just a little bit confused and not sure about what's going to happen. But I think what I would say to them is this: the Lord is in control. The Lord knows our lives. Even all around, even though there's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of despair, a lot of we don't know what's going to happen, the economy is going down, people are losing jobs, it all seems terrible, but the Lord is in control. He knew this would happen, and He is in control of our lives, and we have to look to Him. I think, and that's where I would say is your faith is something that's something that you have to put in action, and we have to put our faith in action now. Trust in the Lord, know that He's leading, know that He's guiding, even though it doesn't seem as if it is, and just be confident that further down the line they might look back at this time and say, well, I learned a lot. Just hold on to your faith and trust the Lord and try to be as positive as possible. That's what I would say to the young people. And also just do the things that you have to do and can do to make this situation work the best for you. And the Lord is going to see them through. I really believe that.
Well, thank you for that, Sharon. I've really enjoyed this conversation, getting to learn a bit more about you and your insight. If you have any questions or comments for Sharon, you can always email us. That email will be in the description box. But we're just going to end this and say thank you, Sharon, and goodbye to everyone.